is with us right now. Will please mute yourself, and when it's your turn to talk, you can bring yourself off of mute. Well, good evening, everybody. Hi, I'm Phil Stasek, past president of the Space Coast Progressive Alliance, and I would love to welcome you to another one of our first Thursday events. Tonight's event is called Contaminated, the Florida Right to Clean Water campaign. And we'll be talking tonight about the critical nature of clean water in the state of Florida, and a very, very important petition campaign to get an amendment to the Florida state constitution guaranteeing the right of clean water to every Floridian. This is a critical movement. It's very, very, very important to all of us. I'll be talking more about that shortly. We have a wonderful panel of three folks who are experts in the field, a few guest speakers, and an opportunity to learn more about this, perhaps your opportunity to be involved. Certainly, all of us should, in my opinion, be signing the petition to get this onto our state constitution, but you can help gather petitions as well. It's easy, and it's something that we all can do. We all can participate in getting this very, very important amendment to our Constitution passed. It's a lovely evening, and I would like to remind everybody, while we got a chance, that there will be another rocket launching tonight, just a little after midnight. A Falcon 9 will be leaving Slick 40 up here at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station on its way into space. So if you are interested in rockets, be sure after midnight, stay up a little bit. You get to see another star in the sky. I would like to pass on the baton to our president, Karen Houston, who has a few announcements. Karen.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. And I certainly thank our wonderful panelists tonight. Some old, some new, I think, and even somebody who's right there from the beginning for SCPA. So thank you all, familiar faces that we haven't seen in a while. Somebody from Oregon, thank you, Mel. So I just want to thank you all for being here tonight, and for everyone who's here to hear this wonderful information that we all need to know about keeping our water clean. So our next event coming up is going to be Florida Women. Are you angry yet? That's going to be Thursday, May 4th. And that's something we all should try to come back and visit us and watch. And you can go and check out that information on our website, which is SCPA Florida, SCPA Florida, spelled out Florida, scpaflorida.com. And we're happy to get anybody, new members. We're looking for new members and people to participate. And so I'm going to pass it over to our treasurer, Carol Becker, who can give you more information about there's Carol, information about joining SCPA.
All right, thank you, Karen. Just trying to finish eating supper. We have family memberships for $35, individual memberships for $25, and student memberships for $10. It helps us run these programs, and we could really use the support. You can go online to the website that Karen mentioned, scpaflorida.com, to pay with a credit card. If you want to pay with a check, you can send it to SCPA PO Box 412, Melbourne, Florida 32902, and that address is on our website, so you don't have to memorize it tonight. But we sure welcome you. We like participation, and we certainly feel like we have some valuable information to give to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Hey, this is our 20th year. And, you know, it's kind of a funny thing. I'm going to sound a little bit like your local PBS station or NPR. We're not having a pledge drive tonight, but we basically are encouraging everyone to seriously consider joining the Space Coast Progressive Alliance. It is very low cost, very inexpensive. You can contribute as well, should you choose. The Space Coast Progressive Alliance has been around for 20 years. We actually have one of our original organizers, one of our founders from that period, who will be on the panel tonight. And over those 20 years, we have represented an awful lot of very important issues. We've been out front in county meetings, on the street with protests, supporting our allies across the Space Coast, trying to do the right thing, trying to support our environment. I always like to say that we're the voice of liberal and progressive thought here in Brevard County, but we do an awful lot of different things, and we're all volunteers. There is no paid staff with the Space Coast Progressive Alliance, yet we still have overhead. And so we're always asking people, please consider to, first of all, be a member. Second, to please donate at least a little bit to help us pay our bills, because we do have bills. And by the way, one of the things, kind of like your PBS station, we do have T-shirts. If you're interested in getting a T-shirt, we ask people to make a small contribution that frankly, we're still working out the details on this, but we have this cool shirt, which is very neat to remind people that we're in the Space Coast. And this more traditional, our view from our logo. Anyway, if you'd like to get a T-shirt, we're going to be basically asking people, please make a small contribution to help cover the cost of shipping, handling, that sort of thing. It'll be, and again, we're working out some of the details on how to do that, but expect more details on that. Probably be $9, $10, something like that. If you can make that kind of a contribution and cover the cost of our shipping, we can get that to you. So again, we really, really appreciate those of you that have been members. Some of you have been members for the whole 20 years. And we really, really welcome all of the new members and all the folks that are willing to contribute. Thank you for that. And back to you, Karen.
So, you know that those of you who followed us along the way, you know that we always ask our panelists to give us action items. And the purpose of these action items is to do something. Once we've had these wonderful Zoom presentations or in person, however we do it, if we just sit upon the information and never share it with the community, it's a waste. So we're asking the panelists to give us an action item, and we're asking you to take action. So that's primarily what we're going to do tonight. And I'm going to give it back. I want to say one little quick thing. The Florida Women, Are You Angry Yet? Presentation coming up. Guess what? We have all women basically for our executive board here now. So the new world is coming up. We're not taking over, we're just joining in. Okay, so back to you, Phil. Have a good presentation, everyone.
Thank you very much, Karen. Hey, we are a community organization, so we always like to give voice to the community. If you have a community announcement to make, please raise your hand. You can either do that just by waving your hand, or if you are, no matter whether you're on a phone, an iPad, or a laptop, whatever, look down at the little Zoom reactions button. Click that, and if you do it, it shows raise a hand, and that way we can spot you and we can give you a minute to make your announcement for the community here. We always like to support our allies and other community organizations here in the Space Coast. So if you have something to announce, please do raise your hand. It's better if you do it electronically. We'll be sure to see you. The opportunity to speak is wonderful. And by the way, for those of you that have just joined us, I would like to remind you that you're on the Space Coast Progressive Alliance first Thursday event, Contaminated, Florida Right to Clean Water campaign. And it's our chance to hear about a very, very important petition effort to get an amendment to the Florida state constitution guaranteeing the right of clean water to everyone. I see we have our first community announcements. Vicki and Poco. Vicki, if you could bring yourself off of mute, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone. I don't think anyone from Awake Brevard Action Alliance is on here, so I'm going to go ahead and make the announcement that we'll be having yet another Women's March this Saturday on the Ogali Causeway. It's titled Shove Your 6-Week Ban. It's an abortion rally and march that's from 3 to 5 p.m. And they have some fantastic speakers lined up, including Representative Anna Escamani. So I hope you will all join us and stand up for women's rights.
And Vicki, at 3 to 5 p.m. So if you show up at 3 o'clock, where specifically on the Ogali Causeway? Is it on the west side of the causeway?
It's the boat ramp where all the marches begin right there. Actually, it's the beach side.
So head over to the east side of the bridge, and The way these typically work, if you've not been on one of these marches, and sometimes I tell you what, I've been at a couple of those women's marches. It is amazing how many folks will show up and march across the bridge. It's a great walk. Hopefully the weather will be great for us, and it's certainly a chance to get out there and wave a flag or two. Do we have any other announcements? Any other community announcements? It doesn't look like we do. So let's go ahead and proceed with our program. I would like to just very quickly introduce this concept. Water is life. The importance of clean water is important to not just human life, but lives of all creatures on our planet. And as we know it, water, most life is dependent on having water. When settlers first came to Florida, let's say 100 years ago, they found clean springs, clean rivers, clean estuaries, clean ocean waters. Imagine going out to the ocean and seeing blue water. Imagine looking at the river and being able to see the bottom and be able to see the dolphins and the manatees and see the fish with your own eyes. Today, we have really, really put all of those ecosystems in grave danger. I could go into great lengths talking about it, but I think that our guests tonight will explain this. And not only the water that you see, but the water that we can't see in the aquifer beneath our feet is at grave risk. We have abused our state. We've abused our water. Frankly, we've abused the land and the air as well. And there have been, over the years, many Floridians who have stood up to fight. And we've created legislature to keep the water clean. But unfortunately, we found that developers, people that pollute our municipalities, even citizens, literally can drive trucks through the loopholes that exist in those bits of legislation. And this change in our state's constitution is intended to fix that. It's intended to give clean water legislation teeth. So we have three key speakers tonight on our panel. First will be Jim DeRocher. He is the East Central Regional Director of the Florida Rights of Nature Network, or FRON, and he'll be leading off our panel of three speakers, followed by Mel Martin. Now, Mel is a retired Marine Corps Judge Advocate General, Florida Right to Clean Water Campaign Coordinator. She's a former SCPA board member and, frankly, a local hero. We've always loved Mel, and she's actually coming to us from Eugene, Oregon tonight, but we dearly love having Mel on our panel. We also have Michael Myjack. Now, Mike is the East Central Regional Deputy Director of FRON, but he also is a former board member of the Space Coast Progressive Alliance. And many, many years ago, 20 years ago, when we were first organizing the Space Coast Progressive Alliance, he was there. He was one of the key members that helped form the Space Coast Progressive Alliance. So we thank each of our panelists for bringing this important story to us. The story tonight is not about the SCPA, but it's about clean water, and it's about what you can do to help bring a guarantee of clean water to every Floridian. Let me hand the floor over to Jim DeRocher. Jim, you have the floor.
All right. Thanks, Phil. And am I coming through okay?
You're loud and clear.
Okay. I just want to welcome everyone to Florida, where we have a right to clean water. Imagine, if you will, Christmas 2024. The Constitution has been amended in Florida. A grassroots citizens initiative has been successful. Floridians have decided on sustainability over exploitation. It could happen, but we're not there yet. Next slide, please. So tonight, we will be focusing on three main points. The first one is why the current system doesn't work despite all the laws we have. We have laws, we have rules, we have policies, and yet it doesn't work. The second thing is why a fundamental constitutional right is the only way forward, and how you can help make this shared dream come true. And we're going to need thousands of dreamers to make this a reality. So I started in the future. Let me go to the past for just a couple minutes here and tell you a little bit about how we got here. Well, in 2019, a group of grassroots group of business people, attorneys, and environmentalists got together and took a democracy school from Thomas Lindsay, a fellow from Washington State. And then we participated with the University of Florida, Levin's College of Law, and had a conference there in Gainesville. And out of that conference and several other meetings, FRON was formed. And the first effort, it was determined, was going to be going to the 20 charter counties, because Florida has 20 counties that are charter counties, and those have their own constitution. So it's a little easier to change the system there. So, and we want to enact rights of nature laws. Okay, so we started out, we had 7 counties that we were kind of working in, but Orange County took the lead. And Orange County had a unique situation. They had a charter review commission that was responsible and pragmatic individuals on that charter review commission, appointed by the commissioners. And after 11 meetings and 7 months and writing and rewriting all different things, they actually voted 9-6 to put it on the ballot for 2020 in Orlando, in Orange County. And what do you think happened? Well, the amazing thing is the citizens approved it by 89% of the vote. Now, nothing in the state of Florida passed with anything close to 89% of the vote. So this is a nonpartisan issue. It is highly sought after by people that care about the environment, and people get it. And so after 18 months of citizens actually having standing in a court, right? Because this granted standing in a court. That's why we have a difficulty bringing a court case against pollution. And after the 18 months, only 1 lawsuit had been filed. And this one single lawsuit in the 18 months was to stop the destruction of 115 acres of wetlands, 2 creeks, and 2 lakes in Orange County. So in March 2020, after placement on the ballot, the Florida legislature was watching our efforts around the state. And they were concerned that we were gaining traction. So they snuck a 1-paragraph item into the Clean Waterways Act, Senate Bill 712. You may remember that passing in 2020. It started out as a pretty good bill, but it was amended and weakened as it went through committees, as usually happens. And it was actually dubbed the Unclean Waterways Act by the time they got done. Many of the environmental groups were saying vote actually against it. But anyway, since 2011, the state legislature has defied local home rule. They've been stripping powers to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens. So, of course, with the preemption filed and signed into law in June 2020 by Governor DeSantis, the court case was dismissed by the judge. Now, that case is pending appeal, but it's going to be a tough road because of the preemption. So the state legislature in Florida actually prompted FRON to change our strategies and move from a county by county amendments to a state constitutional amendment. And basically what that will do is preempt their preemption. Okay, I love that part of it. So because fundamental rights have more authority than legislative laws, right? So this is a really a key thing. So let me talk a little bit about what happened in Titusville then. So in 2021, after we had this, I'm going to adjust my camera, just try to get that goofiness out of there if I can. There we go. All right. Hopefully that'll be better. So, but in 2021, with a bold move, the people, some people in Titusville decided to rewrite the Orange County Amendment to allow for the preemption, and through an initiative petition to place a right to clean water amendment on their ballot for 2022. Well, it was a battle, but the people did it. And two of the people are on the call right now that led that, Mike Myjack and Tom Perez. And you'll hear from both of them later, but they got it done. We helped them as much as we could from our point of view and our position. But guess what happened after they got it on the ballot? Well, it passed with 82% of the people in Titusville want a right to clean water. So I don't know if 18% want dirty water, or maybe they just didn't read it right. But what happened after that is the city government is holding up the certification of that one thing that was on the ballot. So the city government is actually going against the will of their citizens and the will of the people. So pretty incredible situation there. There again, it's another lawsuit going there to try to get it, do the right thing and get it on the ballot, because it's very important. So next slide. So why doesn't the legal system work? And how do we know it's the system and not a simple issue of political power? Well, if you look at the FDEP, they don't enforce the regulations, and it's just not happening. And flagrant permits corrupt the system. So there's really no mechanism to stop, that they can use to enforce their own rules. So that's just a something that needs to change. And Florida does have an Environmental Protection Act, and it's a pretty good Florida statute. Unfortunately, if you look in subsection E of that very act, it nullifies the protections that are in there.
And Jim, forgive me for interrupting you, but your camera is starting to get squirrely again. If you
okay,
could,
let me see what I can do to fix that. Okay.
And just for the audience's edification, FDEP is the Florida Department of Environmental Protection.
Okay, thanks for that, Phil. I get used to the acronyms and forget that people don't know what some of those things are. So, but the system is really designed to fail. So, so we really need to move back a little bit and zoom out to, let me see if I can get that to stop. Sorry about that, Phil. I may go off of video.
Jim, here's a question for you, and that would be, would it be possible to pass over to Mel, have her pick that up a little bit, and then you could come back? Or actually, you're back. We've got you
Okay,
back.
let's try that. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. And so if we zoom out to see what the problem is, and what I'd like to do is move out to the 30,000 foot perspective. And progress is impossible without change. So we need to change the way that we're doing things, okay? We need a paradigm shift. And that's what this amendment will do, okay? One of the things we learned in democracy school, it taught us that the system is working fine for exploiters and polluters, but it has been designed to fail us. So we'll move to the next one. And the evidence of the systemic failure is all around us. So just look around. Florida's #1. Now, everybody likes being #1, right? If you're in line at the deli or if you're a sports team, but Florida is #1 in the most acres of lakes too polluted to swim or to support aquatic life. Now, why is this not on every newspaper's front page and lead story on the nightly news? Now, has anybody seen any articles about this? I'm guessing they haven't. But that is huge news. Phil, how about if I just go off of video for a second?
Sure, Jim. You're going to go activate or just do audio?
Yeah.
Okay, Jim, we can hear you.
Okay. And so about 80% of Florida's 1,000 springs are impaired due to excess nitrogen. So a lot of people don't even realize, but Florida is blessed with the highest concentration of springs on planet Earth. Maybe some of you knew that, but really the springs in Florida are as special as the Grand Canyon or Yellowstone. And yet we allow stuff to go into them and we drain them. And by draining, we've got too many straws in the aquifer. Phil mentioned about the aquifer below our feet. That's where 90% of Floridians get their drinking water. And the spring flow is actually down by over 1/3. And that's a big deal. And then the water that is coming out has nitrogen and phosphorus in it. So if you think about Silver Springs, most everybody's been to Silver Springs at some point in time. The glass bottom boat rides and all that kind of stuff there. And it used to be the world's #1 spring. It was the largest flow of water in the world for a spring, but it doesn't hold that anymore because Ocala and the surrounding area has too many straws on the aquifer, and the pressure is way down. And now it's down by about 38% last I heard from Dr. Bob Knight. So, but wait, there's more. Nearly 1 million acres of coastal estuaries and 9,000 miles of rivers and streams in Florida are impaired for fecal bacteria. Now, we only need one petition signed per polluted acre of estuary. Think about that. That seems like a pretty simple thing to do. For 1 acre, one petition. That's all we need to get this on the ballot. And I'm sure the people will pass it. they like the right to clean water. So polluted waters not only create more frequent severe harmful algal blooms, but they also affect our drinking water. I don't know if there's anybody on the call that gets their drinking water from Melbourne, but Melbourne gets their water not from the aquifer, but from Lake Washington. And Lake Washington, the last few years, has had cyanobacteria blooms, which is the blue-green algae. It's a very dangerous blue-green algae. So if you do have water coming in from Melbourne, please use a reverse osmosis system. It's the only safe way of drinking the water that's coming into there, because they do not filter that out in their normal process. Some of that's getting in there. So, but wait, there is more. And over the past 29 years, there has been a huge increase in the frequency of red tide. Most of you probably know that there's a huge red tide bloom going on Southwest Florida. If you haven't heard about it, you are now. It's actually affecting 7 counties. When this happened a few years ago, I believe it was $180 million they figured that they had lost in revenue because of the algal blooms that they had back then. I think this one is more widespread. If it lasts long enough with the water heating up still, it's liable to cause even more damage. I don't know how much we could correct the pollution with $180 million, but I'm guessing that it would do a lot of good. So also the increase in frequency and severity of the blue-green algal blooms for the risk of neurological disorders. Anybody living near the blooms and breathing the fumes from these, or eating any of the fish or crabs or anything, you could be consuming microcystines. Now, I recommend that you Google microcystines. These are something you do not want in your body. They will destroy your liver and damage your kidneys. So, but there's actually more. So I'll apologize for this reality check, but this is my part of the presentation today. And it'll get a little bit more hopeful in just a little while. But the seagrass fueled by the pollution that 46,000 acres of seagrass have died in the Indian River Lagoon. Last year, they just finished the count about a month ago. It was 800 manatees died last year. It was actually 1,101 the year before. And most of those were from starvation or a weakened immune system from not having enough to eat. And, this is on us, okay? We are affecting another creature, another sentient being, to the point of killing them off. The amount this year where they're dying is over on the West Coast. The highest one is 65 of them have died this year alone in Lee County, which is the heart of the red tide right now. If you think about it, they got to come up to breathe air. And when they breathe the air, they're breathing in all these poison fumes. So also the land-based pollution affects the coral reefs down in South Florida. And it causes coral bleaching. I've seen that through my years of scuba diving. The harmful impacts of algal blooms on local economies, I mentioned that, continue to grow, and they're affecting the charter business and the marine recreation businesses. I actually sold my kayaking business that I owned in Cocoa Beach. I lived there for 33 years, and in 2013, I sold my kayaking business because of the deaths of manatees and lack of other creatures. We had the brown tides in 2011, 2012 in the lagoon. You might remember that. And it caused unusual mortality events. And so we had a lot of manatees that passed, and it just wasn't fun taking people out on tour and showing them dead manatees. So I'm going to try the camera again, Phil, and see what's going to happen now. Maybe it just needed to cool off. So bottom line is nothing is working because things are deteriorating and continue to deteriorate, okay? Despite all the environmental laws and the substantial citizen and advocate engagement. I mean, our waters continue to degrade. All right, I'll cut it off again. So, you know, one of the things that is listening and commenting in public meetings. I did that for decades. I did it at the city level and the county level. I was conservation chair for Space Coast Audubon for more than a decade. And they'd give me my 3 minutes to speak. They'd pat me on the head and say, thanks for coming in. We appreciate your effort. And then they'd go ahead and vote the way they were planning to vote all along. So litigating cases in court doesn't work because we don't have standing. And you need standing in the court. We don't have standing yet, I should say, but you got to have that. And this amendment will give us standing in a court of law. That's another paradigm shift that this would bring. So lobbying, begging and pleading with public officials, it hasn't worked because special interests actually hire lobbyists that pass out all kinds of things and is more attractive to the politicians, the public officials, than what we've got to offer. So the only thing that might work is if we change the laws ourselves, okay, through citizen initiative. And the Florida Right to Clean and Healthy Waters Amendment can do just that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joe, who's going to introduce Jane West, and this will be good.
Obviously, we're not getting the audio. Slight technical difficulty, so thanks for bearing with us, folks.
Uh-oh.
Again, thanks for bearing with us. They're trying to correct this audio problem. And believe it or not, this was actually all tested prior to the beginning of the program. So we're having a Zoom anomaly.
Can you hear anything, or is it just low?
I'm not hearing anything at all. It's completely quiet.
Okay, Bonnie was nodding. Okay.
I actually hear it right now, whatever voice is talking, but it looks like it's on YouTube.
Yes, it's on YouTube. You should be able to hear. Let me try it again.
on his feet when he
Yes,
went.
no?
There we got it.
Okay,
Again, it's very quiet.
okay.
Our next
Someone turn up your speakers.
West. She is policy and planning.
All
director
mine
for
are
1000.
at the highest
She has been
over
practicing
here.
law for years and is an AV rated attorney admitted to the U.S. Supreme Court, the 7th and 11th U.S. Court of Appeals in the Southern and Middle Districts of Florida. She is highly knowledgeable on comprehensive plan amendments and zoning matters. She currently serves as the chairperson of the City of St. Augustine Beaches Planning and Zoning Board and was the founding member of the president of St. John's Association of Women Lawyers. Jane?
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. And Laura Lee, I just really, your comment. To our local tidal area to go fishing for redfish. So that really got to me. So thank you for sharing that. Also, love your restaurant. I can tell you as as a practicing environmental and land use attorney for well over 2 decades here in the state of Florida, I can tell you the litigation is not working. I have been involved in many cases over the years, everything from challenging the minimum flows and levels that are hurting our springs to beach nourishment projects, and it's just not working. I think one of the most prime examples of that, for example, is the 5-decade-long fight to remove Rodman Dam. You know, one of the biggest acts that we could do in the state of Florida is remove the Rodman Dam so we can have over 20 springs flow again that are being submerged by the Rodman Reservoir and have that freshwater flow back into the St. Johns River. And we have not been able to get that done through lobbying for 5 decades, through federal litigation that went up to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeal, through working the back channels with the agencies, with DEP, with water management districts. None of that worked. And here we are with a dam that's on the verge of collapse. It doesn't have any useful function. It doesn't create power. It doesn't have any sort of use whatsoever, except catering to a couple of cronies in my current hometown of Palaca. I live on the St. Johns River in Palaca, and I will tell you that the Bass Masters tournament didn't come to Palaca this year. You want to know why? Because the bass fishermen last year were complaining so much about the lack of seagrass and they could not get any fish. So they moved down to Lake O. I don't know how that's going to go for them down there. But the point is, this is affecting our local economy. Palaca can't take that economic hit, I can assure you. So I will share with you that Florida is really unique. We are not New England, where we're dealing with hazardous waste issues as our primary environmental threat. The biggest environmental threat to Florida beyond sea level rise is the conversion of raw natural land into sprawling development, because the domino effect from that conversion of raw land to sprawling development basically caters down to every other part, including impaired water quality throughout the state. There has been a systematic and intentional whittling away of the ability for Florida citizens to have a voice on the state of their economy. Let's just go back, for example, to the beginning of our current governor's administration. He set up the Blue-Green Algae Task Force. Do you remember he got elected? Our Indian River Lagoon was basically avocado soup, right? So there was an outcry, a bipartisan outcry throughout the entire state for something to be done. So what does he do? He sets up a task force. That's great. You know, everyone was kind of excited. This task force was loaded up with really brilliant minds. It traveled all over the state. Lots of resources and public input went into it. Do you know that hardly any of the recommendations from that Blue-Green Algae Task Force have actually been implemented? There are bills pending right now in the legislature, and you know, God, I really hope they pass, but I am not terribly optimistic. Some of the very simple recommendations stemming from the Blue-Green Algae Task Force include a mandate that septic tanks get inspected and monitored. Like, really? That's not happening right now? You know, come one. Another one is our basin management action programs. They wholly fail to incorporate population growth projections, just as the state of Florida is seeing an explosion of population growth. Does that make any sense that we're staying with stagnant projections for our BMAPs? No, obviously not. Currently, the agricultural industry has a presumption of compliance in verifying their best management practice effectiveness. It's not working. I can tell you, we can complain all day about septic tanks. They are horrible. They're a huge problem. But the number one contributor to impaired water quality in the state of Florida is big ag. And are we going to deal with that? No, because I can tell you as a lobbyist in Tallahassee, and I'll be there next week, by the way, for the start of session, there is such a strong special interest component in the legislature right now that prohibit any sort of forward movement on curtailing the activities that big ag is engaged in. So the litigation isn't working. Lobbying isn't working. This is, in my personal opinion, as a practicing environmental and land use lawyer in the state of Florida, this is the only path forward for us. If we don't make meaningful action on this constitutional amendment, I really don't see how the peninsula is going to continue to function with good water quality and quantity moving forward. So let's get this done, people. I'm happy to be a part of the effort, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Okay, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and pick up where Jane left off and speak about the second part of our presentation tonight, and that is why this?
Hey, Mel, can I speak for just a moment? I would like to introduce you once again.
Oh, okay.
Folks, this is Mel Martin. She's a retired Marine Corps Judge Advocate General, Florida Right to Clean Water Campaign Coordinator, a former SCPA board member, and, in my opinion, local hero. So, Mel, thank you for taking away the program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Phil. So it's obvious that the system is broken, right? Nothing has really worked so far. We continue to hear not only from the experts, but lifelong advocates, people who have been in the fight for most of their time in Florida. So why is this particular language the way to go? Why do we need a fundamental right to clean and healthy waters? And how is a constitutional amendment the best or the only way forward to get to where we want to go? So first off, in the field of law, there's tremendous power in a fundamental right. So we want to make it abundantly clear that our priorities are people and the public interest before private profits. So that hierarchy of rights is going to be legally established and enshrined in the state constitution. Currently, state agencies are able and authorized to interpret important terms like the public interest or harm to more or less presume that private profit equates with the public interest, which is not. It's not right. That's why everything's upside down, because they're able to make it. They have interpreting power to make it upside down. So, and also couch it with the fact that currently courts are more or less deferent to state agencies. They presume that they know what they're doing. And honestly, they do have, they're stock full of experts who do have the science, do have the data to make the right responsible policy decisions. However, some of that gets stifled and interpreted away. But part of the problem is that the courts are pretty deferent to state agencies. So that leads us to the second main benefit of a fundamental right, strict scrutiny. This is a basic principle in law that ensures that courts will review state actions with more scrutiny and less deference. They will take a look at what the science says, not what a politicized white paper dictates. And the courts will ensure that any government action or inaction that harms Florida waters serves a compelling state interest, first of all, and has to be narrowly tailored to meet that compelling state interest in order to prevent harm. So finally, all state actions and policies will be expected to fulfill a higher duty to prevent harm or threat of harm to Florida waters. And to me, this is the beauty of the constitutional amendment. State officials and employees will have an affirmative duty to comply with this as a constitutional standard. So when they ask their Office of General Counsel and their agency attorneys, so will this violate the Constitution? This will be in place. The attorneys will have to read it and say yes or no according to the standards that are in place. So that to me is just, that's huge. Currently, it's not there's nothing in place. So there's a lot more wiggle room, and attorneys are able to say, yes, you have that discretion to do X, Y, and Z. But with this, not so much. So should a state agent or agency go rogue, and they do cause harm or threat of harm to Florida waters, at that point, the amendment does provide a tool, a cause of action, to ensure it properly gets addressed. So as someone who took part in the drafting of the amendment, I can tell you that we started with the end in mind. And that is, in addition to making sure that the amendment did exactly what we wanted it to do at the systemic scale, we really wanted to ensure that the amendment would survive Florida Supreme Court review of the ballot measure itself and stand the test of time and all the schemes and challenges that would be brought to undermine it. Not that that ever happens in Florida, but in theory, it'll stand fast against legislative attempts to degrade it or otherwise, undermine it. So in addition to it being self-executing, meaning it doesn't need Florida legislature to further define or implement anything for it to go into effect. It also provides a clear cause of action. Sorry, I just had to admit Jim back in. So a clear cause of action for Floridians seeking equitable relief. Every material term was clearly defined. Every word was exhaustively researched through statutory and case law to ensure it carried the meaning we intended. So I just wanted to quickly give a shout out. I don't think she's here, but I just wanted to say that my former law professor, Judith Coons, some of you might know, helped me take care of the final drafting of this amendment. And I just wanted to publicly again thank her for so much deeply. She really helped to solidify every piece and aspect of it. So the end result, it's not so short. It's not simple and flowery as we would prefer a constitutional amendment to look like. But we had to prepare for a hostile legal environment in Florida, bottom line. And we had to, therefore, take the lowest common denominator approach to ensure that every aspect of it was ironclad. So it's a bit wordy, and that's what I'm saying. And that's not to say that there are not some beautiful parts to it. For example, this is one of my favorite parts. The second paragraph, the Declaration of Right. The people have the inherent political power pursuant to Article 1, Section 1 of this Constitution to create the fundamental right to clean and healthy waters. And the people hereby declare this fundamental right, which is indefeasible. Nothing can take it away from us. So this is the part where we have the ability to look at the text itself. I can step you through some things. I also wanted to show you bits and pieces of the website itself. So this takes you to the petition. And oh, by the way, we'll give you the slide deck, and it has all of these buttons that you can quickly find things for. But this petition page takes you to, making sure that you're registered to vote. It takes you to the full text, which is what I'll click on in a second. This takes you to the FAQs, which is just our homepage. And you can take your time to look through that. And then finally, this is the petition where you would click to download the petition to print off, sign, and mail in. So let's take a quick look at what it says. Like I said, a little wordy, but it needs to be. This is also one of my favorite parts. And then it gets mechanical after this, but this is why we're here. This helps the judge when she or he looks at the words of the complaint, the plaintiff's case and the defenses and everything like that. The judge will then look to the amendment itself to interpret how it will affect whatever the case is about. And this is just spelling it out very plainly and clearly, why we're doing it, how we are hoping it will be applied in all future cases. So we're explaining that this is, no kidding, important stuff, fundamental in all aspects. Then it lists the substantial interests involved, which means that you don't have to prove a personal injury or your own private property was injured by something upstream. This is like a collective zone of interest type approach of standing. So this is all of Florida. We care about human health, safety, and welfare. We care about our native fish and wildlife, conservation of natural resources, outdoor recreation, aesthetic values, business opportunities, property values, economic interests, all of the above. Okay, so it's comprehensively important to all of us, which is how and why we want the judge to no kidding consider all of this as a priority. Okay, and we can go through this later, or I can answer any questions that you might have in a little bit. But I also wanted to show you very quickly the fact that on our homepage, if you just scroll down just a bit, you'll find a lot of questions already answered here. So if you don't hear your question answered today or tonight, then please feel free not only to surf through this place, but also contact us if you have any follow-up questions. Okay, so this one's more legal. General questions about the campaign and our operations. Here's some specific applications about our, to include the Indian River Lagoon, about how the amendment would work. Here's what some of the party platforms say. Here are some previous recordings of FAQ events as well. So we've been through this for some time now, but let me admit Addison. But we welcome you in all questions and concerns at any moment in time. So about ready to hand things off to Michael. Are you ready to go, sir?
Well, Michael, if you are ready, I'd like to introduce Michael Myjack. He's the East Central Regional Deputy Director from the Florida Rights of Nature Network, or FRON, and he is a past board member of the Space Coast Progressive Alliance. And frankly, he's one of the founders, one of the folks that brought the Space Coast Progressive Alliance together 20 years ago. So, Michael, I'd love to hand it off to you. Can you hear us?
I can hear just fine. Thank you.
And you have the floor. We've got you loud and clear. You have the floor, sir.
Very good. So we've seen that we have a broken system and that nothing that we apply seems to work. And this may be our only way forward, but how do we make it happen? How can each of us do something to ensure that we can qualify for the 2024 ballot. Let's go to the next slide now. Each of us can do something. This approach is a watershed moment in Florida's timeline, and we really need all hands on deck. To make this happen, we have to work together. There are many ways that we can do this based on the timeline that we have, but your energy and your comfort level with what needs to be done, you can apply and help. One, we can help collect petitions and process petitions. Everybody can sign one. You can bring it home, have family and friends sign it as well. We're asking everyone to get 5 more. If you can sign it, take it to 5 more people and get them to do the same. And if we can do that 1 to 5 to 25 to 625, before we know it, we're up in the millions. Because, well, let's go to the next slide. The bottom line is really this. This is how many petitions we need to have by the end of November. It's almost 1 million. And when you think about how many we end up getting rejected because people don't spend the time to sign their name properly, or they don't fill in their birth date or some county designation and they get dismissed, then all the effort that we spent to get that petition to the supervisor of elections are lost. So we really need to get these done. And the only way that we can, well, there's a couple of ways that we could do it, I suppose, if we really want to. But we have to get 25% of them before we can get our congressional approval. So that's something like 225,000 or something like that. I forget what the actual number is. But we need that to first get our judicial review. So we've got months to go, and we've got, well, basically till the end of this year, to the end of the fall. And then we got to either fish or cut bait. Let's go to the next slide now. The good news is that we believe that this scale is achievable. I mean, if you consider where we are today in April, where we'd like to be in June and August and November, we can ramp up if we can get the collection rate that we need to get the numbers higher. That's really what it boils down to. And what that means is that one to the next to the many. That's the only way that we can go. We know that it's achievable, and if we work just a little bit harder, we can actually bring these numbers up. The reality is, of course, that it's much more messy and it's complex, and we have to validate these things before we get them in, and there's multiple places that we have to go to get, each county has its own supervisor of elections. So we have the logistics of reaching each supervisor of election of each county. And we have certain percentage requirements that we have to get across the state as well. So here we are in East Central Florida with people that we know who want clean water. Let's go to the next slide, Mel. We can do this in a couple of ways. We could pay for our petition gathering, but 15 million plus is what we estimate it would cost to buy the petitions to get it done. And we just don't really have that kind of resources available to us. The other thing that we do have in Florida is a whole bunch of retirees that love Florida and came here mostly for fishing and recreation. So if we could get a percentage of these, just 1 in 4 to sign on, we would have our million petitions. So success is achievable, but we really have to do the work. Let's go to the next slide. So what now? It's time to activate every Floridian who cares about clean water. Everybody here should be involved in this because it involves all of us. Our waters are shared and our life is shared. And what we have going forward to leave our children and our grandchildren, to me, it would be unthinkable to not have my grandchildren be able to fish and swim and sail and surf on the lagoon. But that's where we're heading if we can't get this done. So it's imperative that everybody get involved to the extent that you can and help us bring this across the finish line. I'm going to take us to the next slide, Mel. Once you're officially part of the effort, you'll probably be working with one of our 2 county captains here in Brevard, and that'll be Tom Perez and Kathy Brandt. And I guess, Jim, do you want to go ahead and introduce them?
Sure. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I had to go to my phone. Yeah, Kathy Brandt is the South Brevard County captain, and she's a retired teacher who taught environmental issues to her students since 1988. I know she doesn't look
That's right.
enough for that. But, and then Tom Perez, and I'll let each of them speak for a minute. And then Tom Perez is he's really for the North Brevard County captain, but these guys work together as a team to find out all the different venues that might have a place. Tom also was one of the founders of Speak Up Titusville. And so he was instrumental in getting the right to clean water on the ballot for Titusville. So along with, county captains are really crucial. These guys took a lot of pressure off of me. They store petitions and flyers and all the other swag and t-shirts so they can get them to the ambassadors more locally, because I live in DeLand and I've got 8 counties. So having these people in each of the counties is paramount. They perfect petitions and turn them in at the SOEs. They organize local events and festivals. And on occasion, they'll do a presentation. And they contact local businesses and organizations to arrange one of us to come speak, or just to see if the organization will come on board and be, one of our endorsing organizations that will, and a petition location possibly, because we've got some of those also. So anyway, Kathy, you want to say hi to everybody, and then Tom.
Okay, hello. I'm hoping there are many people out there from Brevard County who would be willing to help with petitions and getting them out and getting them signed. I am available to drive all over the county to drop off petitions, drop off pamphlets, pick them up, and turn them into the supervisor of election. I'm getting to really know the ladies at the Sarno supervisor of election office, and they greet me every time I come in with my stack of 400 that I got from Tom last week, or the 300 the week before. And I'm really enjoying the work with this, but we need people to be out there working from, in their own places. And we have a really good group here who are going to libraries and farmers markets and trying to get those things. So if I can help in any way, please reach out to me. Jim's got my number. Tom?
Okay, well, Tom Perez here. I guess what I like to say is it's all about collecting petitions. Okay, we need to get out there. To build credibility, it's always great when a business invites us in. Obviously, you have to go talk to the business and get buy-in. If 2 people are together collecting, that also ups your credibility considerably. These are the nuts and bolts, okay, that we haven't covered, which are extremely important in trying to collect petitions. Also, we do send out a calendar every week. If you'd like to be on that email list, please let me know. I know that Jim put a slide up with my email. So what we try to do is we try to make people aware of what's coming up, what are good likely places that you can collect, not only that's on the calendar, but to give you ideas, for example, thrift shops, restaurants that maybe the owner that can allow you to collect petitions there. There's a lot of things, but it's important that we get out, collect petitions, something that was said earlier. And something that we started doing here is providing a handful of petitions to people that are willing. You know, what I do is I ask them, would you be willing to take half a dozen petitions with you and bring them back to me, or bring them back to the organizational meeting that you're at? And that seems to be working well. We need people to collect petitions. That's the bottom line. And we need to keep pressing on this all the way to the end. This is something that is gonna explode, but only if we keep working it. Okay, we need to keep bringing people on board and using that mechanism to grow the organization. Libraries are also an excellent place for a few weeks, a month, until you've exhausted the people coming through, because it's usually the same people coming. Okay, but it's where you can get several hundred petitions. Okay, and I know there's a couple of people that have been collecting at the library in Cocoa, and I've been trying to get people to collect at ours here in Titusville. So anyway, that's really everything I had to say for this particular time. And please, if you want to get on the email, my email is TNT. Well, there you go. Okay. Well, thank you so very much for your attention.
All right, thanks, Tom, and thanks, Kathy. Now we'd like to try another video with someone probably everybody on this call knows, and that's Laura Lee Thompson. And
Thompson now, to be our next speaker. Laura Lee is a former commercial fisherman and co-owner of the Dixie Crossroads Seafood Restaurant, a fifth-generation Floridian. Laura Lee has witnessed the former glory and current demise of the Indian River Lagoon, once one of North America's most.
Came in to scoop it up.
Okay.
Stop
All right. Sorry. So, okay. All right, gonna continue, is that okay?
Yes.
All right, we actually have time, so we're.
Mel, you have the floor. Yes, even with this interruption. And again, this is the first time we've had something like this. My apologies to everybody on the call or everybody on the Zoom.
Okay, I think Kyocera is Jim's phone.
That's correct.
Okay. And everything else, I can't really see who's doing what, but they might pop up again because I don't know who, what else to do here. Right, shall we? Share screen again. Cross fingers.
Laura Lee has witnessed the former glory and current demise of the Indian River Lagoon, once one of North America's most biologically diverse estuaries. Founder of the acclaimed Space Coast Birding and Wildlife Festival, she has served on numerous boards and commissions dealing with fisheries, environment, tourism, land use, and growth management, and coastal restoration, community resiliency. Laura Lee, thanks for being with us today.
Well, thanks for inviting me. It's kind of overwhelming to be included with such an amazing group of people. I've been involved in the seafood industry for nearly 70 years now, and I'm lucky because I got to experience the Indian River when it was crystal clear and full of life. And it breaks my heart now to see what the river has become. 40 years ago, my parents started a seafood restaurant in Titusville. Their menu mainly consisted of fresh Indian River product. Today, I serve nothing from the Indian River I serve nothing from the Indian River. I can't even get local mullet. And gear restrictions, they haven't worked because our water is a toilet, and and stopping people from fishing doesn't work. 15 years ago, there were a half dozen redfish tournaments every year that were based out of Titusville, and fishermen filled our hotels and restaurants. It's been a long, long time since we've enjoyed the excitement of a fishing tournament with all the money that it brings to the communities where they have them. Numerous celebrity fishing shows formerly filmed here. The publicity was amazing, and people came from all over the world to fish. It's been many, many years since a TV show's been filmed here. 150 fishing guides once held conditional use permits to take their clients into the waters of the nearby Merritt Island Wildlife Refuge. Their clients spent millions of dollars in our community. Today, less than 50 guides hold permits to fish the refuge. Most of the guides that used to work here, they've moved to other places where they have clean water and they can catch and keep fish. The response from regulatory agencies has been to lower bag limits and establish seasons. You can't keep a redfish from the Indian River if you're lucky enough to catch one now. Gag grouper, they're out in the ocean, but they're soon to be placed under draconian reductions in bag limits. Guess what? Gag grouper use oyster beds in estuaries when they're babies before they move out into the ocean. And they're essential to both our commercial and our recreational fisheries. Fishermen from all over Florida, they've been sounding the alarm in vain for decades over estuarine water quality. They beg for something to be done about the ever-increasing pollution that pours into Florida's waterways. But it's easier to stop folks from fishing than it is to clean up the mess where the fish live. In 2016, I went kayaking in the river with a small cut on my right foot. And I got my feet wet, and I ended up going to the wound care center at Advent Hospital twice a week for the next 4 months as a result of the infection that I got. I almost lost my foot. In 2020, Titusville had a massive sewage spill that went into the river. 7 million gallons, that's what they admitted that they dumped. I believe it was much, much more. The stench from sewage and thousands of dead fish, it was unbearable. Residents and visitors were absolutely appalled. So when warning signs were finally put up, one teeny tiny little sign was posted by a dumpster at a nearby beach that's heavily used by water sport lovers. And that beach is a half a mile long. A little boy who went paddleboarding, he got a bacterial infection that's caused by sewage. Now he's paralyzed and he'll have lifelong health issues from swimming in the Indian River. Other people have lost their lives and limbs from recreating in the Indian River. So guys, these issues, they're not just confined to just the Indian River. They exist all over our state, in our estuaries, our lakes, our rivers and springs. I've attended numerous city council, county commission, and tourism meetings trying to get our leaders to understand the impact that unclean waters have on my business and others. My words fall on deaf ears. How can they not understand that Florida's water quality is critical to our tourism industry? Visitors, when they come here, they want to eat local Florida seafood. They don't want to eat the same imported stuff they get at restaurants where they came from. Everybody wants to swim in safe waters. Waterfront homeowners, they want to fish from their yards and not have dead manatees washing up. As the word spreads about the deplorable conditions,
it looks like we've lost Laura Lee's audio.
it's bad for business and it's bad for our residents. It's time for our leaders to recognize that not everyone who comes to Florida goes to theme parks. Clean water is crucial to our state's economy. I believe that the Florida Right to Clean Water constitutional amendment is the only path forward. Nothing else has worked. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we're there. Whew, feels like we've gone through an adventure together.
Indeed.
But I'll just leave this on, unless you would like me to stop sharing so we can conduct the Q&A, Phil.
You know what, that I'll tell you what, one of the things that's most important for us, if we have the capability of putting this into the chat, and then yes, it would be ideal if you could stop sharing and then people could interact directly with the panel.
Sounds good. I will drop the link to this particular presentation in the chat for you.
Thank you very much. And Mel, again, thank you for your effort and my apologies. I'm so sorry that we got attacked, and it's bizarre. Incidentally, for everybody else, if you don't know Laura Lee Thompson, she has been a speaker at the Space Coast Progressive Alliance before. She is a renowned local environmentalist and activist, and indeed she owns the Dixie Crossroads restaurant up in Titusville, which is very much worth a visit if you've never been up there. And Laura Lee is a force to be reckoned with. She is respected by pretty much everybody that she deals with because of her credibility. And sadly enough, she described having an infection from our local waters. I also had an infection. I was doing oyster gardening work and being in the Indian River Lagoon, wound up with this very serious infection on my arm. It was terrifying. And knowing that this is happening to children that are playing in the Indian River Lagoon, you'll go out for weekends and you see kids out in the water and you realize, hey, you know what? Parents are taking their children's lives in their hands. It's one of the reasons we're all here. So if you have a question for our panel, please go to the reactions area in the Zoom function. If you click on that, it'll show you that you can raise your hand and we can call on you and you can ask a question of our panel. This is a fairly complicated legal document trying to amend the Constitution of the state of Florida. But what's easy is getting people to sign, because people, when they read the petition, or when they read the introduction to the petition, people want to sign it. And I know that one of the things that efforts is that if you can sign it yourself, if you can pass the 5 of those petitions to 5 people that you know and collect them, ask those people to send petitions to 5 people that they know. That kind of thing increases the reach of the petition drive exponentially. So I know that is one of the ideas that has been stewing in this effort. If you can help somebody else take 5 petitions to their neighbors, to their friends, who can take it to 5 of their friends and neighbors, this can get done very quickly. There are lots and lots of people that are trying their best. Again, if you have a question, please go to the little reactions window in your Zoom window, whether you're on a phone, whether you're on an iPad, whether you're on a laptop, you'll see it there. Just click that, raise your hand, and ask a question. I see our first question has come in with Jan Moran. Jan, if you could unmute yourself and ask that question, please.
Have you guys tried going to restaurants and asking them if they could collectively try to get together and get petitions signed? I mean, it's in their best interest to increase their traffic. And surely they would want to have better food. And I'm thinking of markets that would benefit from, of course, everybody should benefit from, but who might be willing to let you sit in their front lobby, set up a table or something like that, and ask them to do. Have you tried that?
So which panelist would like to take that one? Jim,
If I
you want
may,
to take
can
it?
you hear me?
Yes. Tom.
Okay, unfortunately, the only way this works is really to be face to face with the person that you're trying to collect a petition from. You can drop petitions off all day long at all kinds of establishments, but you're not going to get any petitions signed unless you have somebody from that establishment or one of us actually there to approach the individual, to explain what this is about, and to get the petition signed. There's no other way.
I'm thinking that you would set a table up, and you're talking about going to a library and setting up a table. Why not have a table at a restaurant or someplace that would benefit from it? And then you'd sit there and you talk to people, and while they're waiting to get into the restaurant, do it there.
Again, yeah, if you can get the restaurant to give you permission to do that, that is great. I've done it many, many times. The restaurants that are willing to do that are a very small number.
Yeah.
Okay, so be prepared for that. I think you're better off, unless, even Dixie Crossroads, okay, they provided us with permission to collect petitions at their establishment. Initially, when we were doing the collection for Titusville, Laura Lee and I unfortunately found that maybe 99% of the clientele was not from Titusville, But now that we're collecting petitions for the entire state, we hope to find that that is going to be a big help for us. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be going over there to Laurel this Saturday, okay, after I'm done with Isaac Campbell Park function.
You
I
would
hope that
think-
answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, I realize it's a challenge, and I'm just thinking, I mean, like, you would think every fishing boat that goes out and has a fishing tour, that every fisherman on that boat would be willing to sign.
You would think.
You would think.
I've approached the various bait shops and had, just, I don't like spending time when I'm not getting, the kind of results that I would expect. So I just move on. Okay. And that's what I would say to anybody who's trying to collect petitions. Try to, get out there, do it. If it doesn't work, go somewhere else.
I just wanted to add that there is a program in place, and Tom is right, it's not a huge influx of petitions, signatures, but it is an infrastructure that we're putting out into, throughout the state to let people know that, they don't have to have a printer in order to, sign a petition. They can swing by their local X, Y, and Z to do so, or they have it printed out, but they don't have a stamp or envelope, so they can drop it off there. So what these businesses or organizations really with a physical location are called petition locations. So you register to become one. We promote that out to the local area to let everyone know where they exist. We put it on our website. And the next step right now is that we're going to thank by 5-star reviews on Google Maps, all the places that are petition locations, thank them for being the Florida Right to Clean Water petition locations. So if and when someone wants to find out where their closest one is, they can go to Google Maps in the search bar, say petition location near me, and they can find, they'll pop up that way. So we're just trying to make it as easy as possible for all situations, but yes, your suggestion is exactly what we're hoping to see blossom further, especially as things get more, more people get aware of it and they get more interested in doing it themselves. So thank you.
And I see Bonnie Ida has her hand raised. Bonnie, you have a question, and who would you like to address the question to? And don't forget to unmute yourself. Bonnie, there you go.
I have a little follow-up to that, and that is I have a favorite bike shop. They said they would like to carry the petitions. Kathy has told me that there's a sign that can go in their window, and they said yes, but I'm sure they would love the business. So can you tell me how I can, they're very, very busy people, but I would be happy to put them into your system. If you can give me, do I just go to the website?
Yes, and all they have to do is just register, or you can register on, I don't know, make sure that they're okay with you registering on their behalf.
Yeah,
but it's really, that's how you connect into the effort immediately. And within a week, you'll get a welcome aboard email from us, and you'll have someone connect with them. There are petition location or petition logistics teams set up now that are devoted to just this issue, to call and set up, make sure they have blank petitions, make sure they have handouts or signs or whatever they need. So they just have to, the first step is to register.
Okay, my first intention to ask a question was I was at Ballard Park and there was a couple mothers with their children wading and playing in the lagoon.
Oh,
and I went up to them and I said, I don't think you want to do that. Is this what we should be doing, helping protect children and people from getting in that lagoon?
In my opinion, there should be signs up by the government to provide sufficient notice wherever people play. Not necessarily that it's currently poisoned, but the risk factors involved. People presume that waters are safe if they see other people swimming in it. So if it isn't, or if how can you be sure if they're not even monitoring it or testing the waters on a routine basis? That's something I learned from, the Indian River Lagoon Coalition work, was that, they really only test a couple places and the beaches, because that's where they presume people are going to go. But I don't know, hoping that more notices and monitoring happens sooner than later. But with the amendment, it'll be a clear duty to do so.
Thank you. I know it's hard to do that, to walk up to strangers and say something like that. But then when I thought about walking away and leaving that and not speaking out, you just have to make yourself do it.
Yeah, it's hard.
And of course, our local tourism folks would literally have a heart attack if our public health officials began giving honest assessments of the danger of being exposed to the water, not only bathing in it, walking in it, swimming in it, but drinking it. The reality is that we are all exposed to a risk. And I can tell you guys, the scar that I have on my arm was somewhat terrifying. The rate at which that infection spread across my arm and was literally eating into my flesh. And I know this has happened to other people. It's shocking. And this is only part of the story. Remember that saltwater intrusion, in other words, the aquifer, we're drawing water out of the aquifer at a rate that is allowing salt water from the ocean to penetrate into the fresh water under our feet. So as much as people might think, hey, you can draw water out of the aquifer forever, the answer is no, you can't. And that's why this is so critically important. Access to fresh water truly is a human right. And having this amendment to the Florida State Constitution is critical. The question is, how do we get enough petitions? How do we get the word out about this? We need to be talking about it to our friends. We need to be talking about it to people at work. I'm curious, here's a quick question for you, and that is yard signs. Sometimes folks like to get a yard sign to put out, in front of their house. Do you have yard signs that might have a QR code on them so that somebody passing by could quickly scan, take them to your wonderful website? And folks, one of the things that I would ask you to do is to please go to their website at the end of our event. I'm not sure if you have that as one of your action items, but this website is terrific. It's full of great information. And I watched this and I thought, gee, I should have some business cards with that a link to that website that I could hand to people if you're talking to them about, here, take a look at this. Do you have business cards? Do you have yard signs?
Yes.
And how do we get them?
And one of the things, once you register, and your next step will likely be to talk with either Kathy or Tom regarding your logistical requirements, what you're going to do, what you plan on doing with them. And they will connect the dots and hook you up as soon as possible.
Excellent. And if anybody has any questions for our panelists, please go to the little reactions button on the Zoom function. So it's on your phone, on your iPad, on the computer. Click the little reactions button and you'll see raise hand. So if you could do that, we can call on you and ask you or have your question answered by this wonderful panel of experts. And this is something that you have a question?
I have a question.
Sure. Mel, take
for my own edification. Tom and Kathy, where do you consider the line between North and South Brevard? I came across this. I was like, I don't know.
Tom, I think you might be talking, but there you go. You have to unmute for us to hear you.
Yeah, I don't think we have one. We've kind of
agree
closely together.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Kathy's still on. So, we do things for each other and we talk to each other a lot. So, she is all the way down there and I'm all the way up here, but we do cross. Like, for example, I'll go into Orlando wetlands. We did a bunch of collection there. So we move around, as we can, and we try to get others when we can't make it to go.
And I would say that, all the ideas of how to collect petitions is really good, but Tom and I are just two people, and our issue is getting more people out there to go sit in a restaurant or go to the businesses. And Tom is so good about getting that in his weekly message out to the groups. And we both have our own set of email lists. And so we're reaching a lot of people, but we just need to get them out there and collecting.
And of course, many of the people that are on this call have Facebook accounts or Twitter accounts or whatever social media outreach that they have. And so being able to just post your website, which is very simple, you spell it out, Florida right to clean water.org. So Florida right to clean water.org will link to their website. And it answers, if somebody's skeptical, hey, you don't necessarily want to sign a petition without learning a little bit. Hey, you can go right to the website. You can read the entire text. You can push a button and print out your own copy of the petition and complete it yourself. I understand that in order to be eligible to sign this petition, you need to be a Florida resident. And do you need to be voting age, or do you have to be a registered voter or?
Yes.
Okay, so registered voter, citizen of Brevard, I'm sorry, not Brevard, citizen of Florida, a resident of Florida. And what else? What are the other requirements to sign this?
You just have to be a registered voter. I mean, you could live in England and still sign it if you're a registered Florida voter.
Ah. And so you don't have to actually be a resident. You don't have to be a resident of Florida. If you are an expat.
Well, as long as you're registered to vote in Florida. So you can be in the military anywhere in the world. You can, yes.
Oh, speaking of in the military, are you spreading the word through the veterans groups? We obviously should reach out to whatever veterans contacts that we have to get people up to speed, and you might motivate a pretty large group of active recruiters, you might say.
Well, that's a good idea.
That would be nice. We have Veterans for Common Sense that had endorsed us early on, but I would love to see that.
and of course, the Space Coast Progressive Alliance, I believe, has agreed to have a link on our website as well. And I see that we have Addison Meyer has her hand raised. Addison, do you have a question for our panel? And would you please unmute yourself? Thanks, Addison.
I don't have a question. It's more of a suggestion. We carry petitions with us everywhere we go, and we pick up trash. We have them with us, and we kind of guilt people into signing.
That's awesome. How many petitions have you collected so far? About
800. 800.
Beat that, guys.
That's a target.
You can. 800.
And Addison, one thing that many people who watch you, and by the way, I've always said that Addison is future president of the United States. She is a local leader in many regards. I've seen Addison out there firing up people and getting them going on many different issues. And Addison, people always look at you and say, well, if you're doing so much, how old are you? You just had, well, last time I saw you had a birthday. How old are you now, Addison?
I'm 9.
So a 9-year-old girl, local community activist, got, you said 900 petitions, is that right?
9, yeah, somewhere in there.
So clearly, those of us that are 60 years old should be able to get 6,000 petitions at that rate, something in that ballpark. And that's only fair. Thank you so much, Addison. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all that you do for our community. I really appreciate that. I see we have another question. And Darlene, if you could unmute yourself, this is Darlene Hellers. Still muted. There you
go.
Got it.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
There we go.
Can you hear
You're
me?
Got you now.
Okay. All right. Anyway, Addison is my role model. And I have a suggestion. I actually, Tom was kind enough to bring me a t-shirt, the Florida Right to Clean Water. And I have actually started wearing that when I go out in public. And if I have the opportunity to approach someone, I'll actually go up to them and ask them if they'll sign a petition. I got one at the car wash last week when I took my car in to get it washed. I had to go to Office Depot to pick up some copying paper, and the young lady who checked me out signed one of my petitions. Tom was kind enough to bring me, you do have access to business cards, so that when you're talking to people and they're not really receptive to signing a petition, you can give them one of those business cards and say, please go to the website and check it out. It has a wealth of information on it. You can find out more about it. And then, yes, you can print, sign, and mail in a petition. And then also, like Tom said, I've been following his advice. And when I talk to people who sign a petition, I ask them, do you know 5 people who will sign a petition? And they'll take them, they'll bring them back to me, have them ask those people to ask another 5 people to get the ball rolling. And it has worked for me. But I feel like if I wear that t-shirt when I go out in public, I'm a walking billboard. And at least people will see it, and maybe somebody will come up and ask me, what's this all about? But then again, as Kathy was saying, it's really important that we get involved. And she and Tom both get on their email list, and they send out a calendar on a weekly basis letting you know of upcoming events where you can go and you can volunteer and be in a group of people, collecting petitions. And these are places that we're welcome. People are receptive. You go up to someone and you ask them, are you a registered voter in the state of Florida? Yes. Do you believe that we have the right to clean water? Well, yeah. Will you please sign a petition for me so we can get this on the ballot in 2024 so we can vote to ensure our right to clean water? And I was with Tom at an event a few weeks ago. We were up in Titusville at Fox Lake for their Spring Craft Festival. And we had another person come and help us for a few hours. And in the time that we were there, we actually collected 340 signed petitions. And it's a no-brainer, and it's a nonpartisan issue. I have had one person ask me, well, what political party is sponsoring this? This is not a political party. This is a citizens' initiative, I guess you could say. We all want the right to clean water. And it's amazing some of the stories that people tell me of what it used to be like. And, and how even in the short time that I've lived here, it's really sad just to see what has happened. And it's hard to believe that we actually have to go and take this step to get an amendment to our state constitution to ensure us our right to clean water. It's a fundamental right. I can't explain the thought process of our politicians. It seems like they're not in favor of it. They kind of lean towards, as you said, big ag and the lobbyists, for developers. And they all do seem to find a way to get around the laws that are actually in place. But I truly believe that if we did have an amendment to our state constitution, as Jim said, this would validate and put more teeth into the law, and it would hold the state agencies accountable for enforcing the laws that are already there. And this is our future. I'm doing it because I'm thinking of the future generations and what we're going to be leaving behind for them. So please, even if you just go to one event, get your friends involved, talk to your friends, talk to family members. Facebook is another good place. If you're on Facebook and you have friends and family who live in the state of Florida, post, a little announcement and put the website as a link on there and send it to them. And
Well,
hopefully that will
Darlene, thank you. I tell you
encourage
what,
them.
is there anybody on the panel who would like to pick up the respond to Darlene's thoughts and her question? And by the way, I'd like to remind everybody that if you are not talking, please do mute yourself. I know we're getting some background noise, so if you're not actually speaking, please mute yourself. And somebody on the panel who'd like to respond to Darlene, please.
Can you hear me, Phil?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I just have to agree with what she's saying. All those are good ways of doing it. Remember when we used to go to the ocean because we had a cut on our finger or our leg? And when I was a kid growing up in Miami, my parents would always say, go to the beach if I got skinned knees or something like that. And it would heal. You'd go swimming for an hour and the wound would heal. Now you go there and you could die. That's what we've seen change in a one person's lifetime.
Anybody else on the panel that would like to respond? We do have time for another question, and if anybody would like to raise their hand and get an answer from this wonderful expert panel about how you can get involved, how you can get a petition, how you could sign a petition, how you can make this happen, or what your thoughts are generally, we'd certainly like to bring you into the conversation. I also encourage people that are on the panel to talk to each other. This is something that we can all learn from. As Mel was asking the other panelists a question, I think that's a good idea. We got a question back from Jan. If you could unmute yourself and ask your question.
Have you written up some dialogues that is like already put together for what to say when you talk to somebody so that you could follow it? If you have anything like that that we could use as a tool.
An elevator pitch. Do we have some elevator pitches?
Yes, we have. We've been very fortunate to have one ambassador in particular. Her name's Cheryl, who is a master organizer and creator of all this guidance. All of a sudden, we have a campaign guidance index where you can, hit the link that will take you to exactly what you were just talking about. So the answer is yes. And as soon as you register, you'll have access to this campaign guidance index and have all your more internal working knowledge at the ready for you. And while I'm talking, I'll just add very quickly that if you're not comfortable, going out and talking to strangers and collecting petitions that way, there is a whole host of help that can be done from the comfort of your own home. And that is another way that you can directly help the campaign achieve success. We pretty much have it, our two main operations are petitioning operations and outreach operations. Of course, you can see how they help each other out. With the petitioning operations, you have the more logistic issues involved. You can still help from home in direct support of petitioning operations. For instance, if you're good at perfecting, reviewing and perfecting signatures before and petitions before they go into the supervisor elections, we need folks to do that big time. If you would like to help, like I said before, connect the dots between petition locations and et cetera. There's a lot to do in that aspect. And on the outreach aspect, there's even more to do if you're, if you don't want to go outside. There's social media, there's creative opportunities, there's public relations, there's fundraising, another big thing, and there's marketing. and data, we need a lot of help with data management. There's a lot of stuff going on at all times, and we just need to maintain the integrity of information that we have. So just wanted to explain that, there's any number of things that you could possibly do, and you don't have to do one thing the whole time. You can, change it up. You can do something this month, nothing next month, another, so it's completely up to you, your time, your energy, your focus, and your preference for how you would like to help the campaign. But the bottom line is we would love any help you can provide.
And Mel, since you're in the action mindset right now, I would ask, do you and or anybody else that's on the panel have action items for us tonight?
The first and foremost is, of course, to sign your petition. And then the second to that is to ask 5 others within your family or friends to sign theirs. And if you're feeling randy, then you can ask your more family members and your circle of friends on your social media networks or your clubs, your next meetings, your coworkers, your church groups, whatever. Whenever you see people, ask them and happen to have a stack of blank petitions ready. Would they be able to quickly, take 5 minutes and save Florida's future? So I think that would be the top priority of action item. And the second and third are really, what I had described before. Share this out, help out with awareness, and finally support however you can.
It's interesting. I just got a little message here in our chat from Vicky in Poco, and she's saying that 6 years ago today, you were a panelist on our No Fracking Way program. We were identifying the dangers of fracking and fighting fracking here in Brevard County. So Mel, you've been in this for the long haul, and we certainly want to say thanks to you. Frankly, we want to say thanks to Jim DeRocher, to Michael Majak, Kathy Brandt, Tom Perez, frankly, to everybody that has joined us. The fact that people have come to this event indicates that they are concerned about clean water. This is the easy sell, the group that's here tonight. What's really, really interesting about this is the vast majority of Floridians will vote for this. We've seen from previous experience that most people, when they see it on a ballot, they'll say, absolutely, sign me up. The hardest part is getting it on the ballot, and that is because our legislature has made it harder and harder and harder over the years to get these sorts of things on the ballot. And so it's our challenge as people who actually care about the state of Florida and want to make the state a better place to get involved and do your part. You don't have to do a lot. Nobody's asking you to get 900 petitions done, although that would be fantastic. But just posting it on your Facebook page makes a huge difference. Do any of our other panelists have any other action items that they would recommend? I think we may have already covered all the key action that we can do. So what I want to do is to thank all of you. Hey, for everybody that's here on the Zoom, could you turn off your mute and come on, and let's give our panelists a round of applause. Thank you so much for being here. If we were having a live event, you'd have a standing room audience of standing room applause. We really, really, really do appreciate what you're doing for our community. Again, the Space Coast Progressive Alliance will commit to helping as best we can, and we want to thank you for that. And
Bill, if you're going to commit, I've learned one thing about government. I want metrics. I want to measure. I want to know when you're doing good. So how many is Space Coast Progressive Alliance going to commit to?
I'm going to pass that over to our president. Karen, would you like to make that commitment?
No, you're not going to put me on.
I'm not on the board anymore.
I like that, Phil. That was a good one there. See? Oh, you know what? I'm going to do my best, all I can say. And I'm hoping that everybody else will too. I'm from an area, I heard one of our speakers talk about Palatka, that she was from Palatka, and I'm from that same area, so I'm used to the freshwater fishing and people coming to little tiny little fishing camps and all that sort of stuff. So, and when I first came here to Brevard, people would go out on the river and dig up oysters and clams and pop them on the grill and that sort of stuff. So I've seen the change, and I understand that we got to leave something for our children, and the beyond that. So yes, we should all commit.
And before we end, we always ask that.
Yeah, one more question.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, bring this to your organizations. We all belong to different organizations, okay? And I've been having a lot of success trying to tap into the DEMs across the whole county, and now I've got people going across counties. All organizations that you belong to, make your pitch and try to get them involved.
Well, thank you very much. And again, the program must not end here. We ask everybody that's watching, whenever you watch it, however you watch this, please don't just watch and learn for yourself. Spread the word. Tell your neighbors, tell the people in your family about this. Most people have no idea that this is going on. It's up to us to spread the word. So don't let the program end here. Remember, the next First Thursday program will be Florida Women. Are you angry yet? And that will be on Thursday, May 4th. I want to thank everyone that has joined us. I want to thank our panel. I want to thank our guests. Have a beautiful night. Remember that tonight there will be a rocket launch after midnight, about 12:30. A Falcon 9 will be launching into space. So thanks, everybody. Have a beautiful night, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you all again. Miss you.
We miss you,
Yeah.
Mel.
Indeed, we do miss you, Mel.
You take care.